All right, so you've been asking about Lean Six Sigma, especially how it applies to maintenance. Well, we're diving into this article, Maintenance Excellence with Lean Six Sigma, CMMS Success, and let me tell you, it's got some really practical stuff in there.
It's pretty amazing how Lean Six Sigma, which actually started out in manufacturing, has really taken root in the maintenance world over the last couple of decades.
Yeah, and I think what we're really trying to get at today is how to make this more than just a buzzword, you know? So, could you give us that core definition? What are we really talking about when we say Lean Six Sigma in maintenance?
Well, at its core, it's about bringing together these two really powerful concepts. You've got lean, which is all about cutting out waste. And I mean anything that doesn't actually add value. And then you got Six Sigma, which is all about reducing variation and defects. So picture this. Your equipment is running like a dream almost all the time. That's the goal. That's what Lean Six Sigma is trying to achieve in the context of maintenance.
Okay, I can get behind that vision. But you know me, I like to see the practical side of things. Got any tangible examples of this in action?
One that always comes to mind is the 5S methodology. Now, it might sound deceptively simple at first. Sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain.
Right, I've heard of that, but I'll be honest, it sounds kind of basic, you know?
I get it, I do, but stick with me here. Imagine a workshop, right? Tools everywhere, chaos. Now picture that same workshop after they've implemented 5S Word as everything's in its place, labeled, organized. You're not wasting time hunting down a wrench.
Okay. Yeah, I see how that would make a difference. Less time searching, more time actually getting things done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what does that lead to? Less downtime, more productivity, and I bet you'd even have a calmer, happier maintenance team. So you see, something as simple as organizing your workspace, that can be a really powerful first step toward Lean Six Sigma.
That's a good point. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. But it's not just about tidying up, right? There are more complex tools and techniques involved, aren't there?
Oh, absolutely. Another great example is this idea of poka-yoke. It's Japanese for error-proofing. Basically, it's about designing systems and processes where mistakes are almost impossible to make in the first place.
So instead of just reacting to errors after they occur, you're building in those safeguards early on. That's got to be invaluable in maintenance, where a small mistake can have huge consequences.
Exactly. It's all about prevention. Think of it like this. You've got a special connector that can only be plugged in one way. No more accidentally reversing the polarity and frying a circuit board. Right? Little design tweaks like that might seem small, but they can prevent costly errors and downtime down the line.
Now, that's what I'm talking about. Practical solutions with a real impact. So talk about some specific examples, but for someone who's maybe new to all this, what are the core benefits of actually implementing Lean Six Sigma, especially in maintenance?
Well, reduced downtime is a big one, like we've been saying. I mean, think about it. Less downtime equals more production, which can often mean higher profits. And beyond that, there's a huge impact on safety.
Okay, let's dive into that a bit. How does Lean Six Sigma actually make for a safer work environment?
When you standardize procedures and you're really focusing on this error proofing, you're naturally going to reduce variability, right? And that means less potential for things to go wrong, fewer accidents, fewer injuries, fewer near misses, just by creating a more controlled, more predictable process for maintenance.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's a direct link between these methodologies and a safer workplace, which is huge.
Oh, it really is. And it goes beyond just the bottom line or safety regulations. Lean Six Sigma, believe it or not, can actually lead to more engaged employees.
Now that's an interesting angle. How so?
Well, a lot of times it means giving employees at all levels the power to say, hey, we can improve this. They can contribute to finding solutions. And that sense of ownership, that involvement, it can really boost job satisfaction. You end up with a more proactive, more engaged workforce.
So it's not just about forcing some top-down system. It's about creating this culture where everyone feels like they have a voice, that they can contribute to continuous improvement.
You got it. And that's something we can explore further as we look at some real-world case studies and talk about the challenges that pop up along the way.
Perfect. Because as great as this all sounds, I'm sure there are some hurdles to overcome when you're actually trying to put this into practice.
You're absolutely right, and that's something we'll definitely dig into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at how companies deal with people who are resistant to change, those data quality issues, and how to make Lean Six Sigma a core part of their maintenance culture.
Sounds good. So we've laid a solid foundation here, understanding what Lean Six Sigma is all about and the benefits it can bring. Next, let's get into those real-world examples and see how these principles have been successfully used in different settings. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back. Last time, remember, we really got into the nuts and bolts of Lean Six Sigma, particularly for maintenance. Got those gears turning now, huh?
I bet. Ready to see how it all plays out in the real world.
You know it. Hit us with those examples. Okay, so you're particularly interested in 3M, right? I mean, they've got a massive product line. How do you even begin to apply Lean Six Sigma to something that big?
Yeah, it seems like a lot to handle. Where'd they even start?
Well, get this. They actually used it to lessen their environmental impact. And guess what? They saved money at the same time. It was a win-win.
You're kidding. How'd they manage that?
They really embraced that whole eliminate waste thing, and they found some pretty surprising areas where they could do that.
Like what? Spill the beans.
One of the coolest examples was their packaging process. Remember that value stream mapping tool we talked about?
Yeah, vaguely. Remind me again.
So they used it to map out every single step in the process of getting a product, from the factory floor to the customer's hands.
And I'm guessing they found some inefficiencies along the way.
Oh, you better believe it. They were using way more packaging material than they needed, and some of their processes were just overly complicated. So they redesigned their packaging, made things more efficient, and bam, less waste, lower costs.
So they're helping the environment and their bottom line. That's pretty impressive. But we also talked about how this stuff can apply to more, human-centered fields like healthcare.
Yeah.
What about that hospital in Dublin, St. James's, I think it was?
Right. Okay, so this one is really inspiring. They wanted to tackle those crazy long wait times in the ER. I mean, can you imagine being a patient? Every minute feels like an hour.
Oh, absolutely. Anything that can improve that experience has got to be a good thing.
Exactly. So they used Lean Six Sigma to streamline their whole triage process, where they figure out how urgent each patient's case is.
Makes sense?
Yeah, by optimizing that process and making sure their staff schedules matched up with the actual patient flow, they cut those wait times down significantly.
So they took something that's usually chaotic and unpredictable and made it efficient, which is better for everyone, especially the patients.
Exactly. And it just goes to show you how versatile these principles are. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're making products, delivering services, or even treating patients, the core ideas. Reducing waste, improving flow, eliminating defects, it all applies.
It's incredible to see the range of what you can do with this stuff, but I'm sure it's not always easy to actually implement, right? What kind of challenges do people usually run into?
Yeah, good point. There are always bumps in the road. One of the biggest hurdles is simply getting people on board with change. We're creatures of habit, right? Even if there's a better way, we tend to stick with what we know.
Yeah, I can see that. Change is tough, especially at work where people have their routines. So how do you deal with that resistance?
Communication is key. You got to get everyone on the same page right from the get-go, explain why you're making these changes and, show them the benefits. But it's not just about talking the talk.
Yeah.
You got to involve people in the process, get their input, make them feel like they're a part of the solution.
Right, so it's about ownership, not just top-down orders.
Exactly. Another big challenge is data, or sometimes the lack thereof. Lean Six Sigma is all about using data to make decisions, to find areas for improvement. But a lot of companies, they struggle with collecting data consistently, or the data they have is a mess.
So how do you tackle that? It's like you need good data to do Lean Six Sigma, but you need Lean Six Sigma to get good data.
Yeah, it can feel that way, right? A good place to start is to set up standardized procedures for collecting data, make sure the data you're getting is actually accurate and relevant. You might have to invest in some new tech, some software, but it's worth it because without good data, you're basically shooting in the dark.
It's like trying to navigate without a GPS data is your map.
You got it. And even when you have good data, there's the challenge of finding the right balance between proactive and reactive maintenance.
Okay, now you've lost me. What's the difference?
So reactive maintenance, that's like putting out fires. Something breaks, you fix it. Proactive maintenance is about preventing those fires in the first place. Regular checkups, preventative measures, thinking ahead.
Gotcha. So it's about being proactive, not just reacting.
Exactly. And Lean Six Sigma gives you the tools and the structure to make that shift, to analyze what's going on, find those potential problems before they become actual problems.
It's about working smarter, not harder.
Bingo. And that brings us to another common challenge. Limited resources. Companies might think, Lean Six Sigma sounds expensive. We don't have the time, the money, the people for that.
Yeah, especially smaller companies or those with tight budgets, I can see how that would be a concern.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. You don't have to do it all at once, right? You can start small, pick one specific area you want to improve, and go from there. As you start seeing results, then you can think about scaling up.
So it's about being strategic, choosing your battles, and focusing your resources where they'll have the biggest impact.
Exactly. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Right? Little changes can make a big difference in the long run.
So we've talked about those challenges, but it seems like Lean Six Sigma, it's got a lot of potential, right? You mentioned there are all these tools and techniques to make it happen, like value stream mapping. You talked about that before. What was that again?
Right, so value stream mapping, it's basically making a visual map of your entire process. Every single step from beginning to end. Like if you're providing a service or making something, you literally draw it out.
Ah, okay, so you can see the whole thing step by step.
Exactly. And when you see it all laid out like that, that's when those bottlenecks, those inefficiencies, they really jump out at you.
It's like you can finally see the forest for the trees.
You got it.
Yeah.
And that's how you know where to focus on eliminating waste, streamlining steps, making the whole thing flow better.
So the map itself isn't the solution, it's more like it reveals the solution, right?
Exactly. It's about the insights you get from seeing it visually. And speaking of tools, another one you'll hear about a lot is the DMAIC framework.
Okay, DMAIC, break that down for me.
So DMAIC stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. Think of it like a step-by-step roadmap for tackling those improvement projects.
Keeps you on track, keeps things organized.
Exactly. And it all starts with define. You got to know what problem you're actually trying to solve, right? What are you trying to improve? Then you measure, you gather data to figure out your starting point.
So data is a big part of this.
Absolutely. You can't just guess or go with your gut. You need that data. And once you have it, you move to analyze, dig into that data to find the root causes of the problem. That's when you start to understand why things are happening the way they are.
Instead of just putting on a Band-Aid, you're figuring out what's actually causing the problem.
Exactly. Then comes the I improve. This is where you brainstorm ideas, try things out, make those changes based on what you learned in the analyze phase.
So it's a process. You're constantly learning, adapting, testing things out.
Exactly. Yeah. But you're not done yet. The final step, control. That's how you sustain those improvements, Create those standard procedures, track your performance, do those regular checks so those hard-earned gains don't disappear.
Right, because making a change is one thing, but making it stick, that's the real challenge.
Exactly. And DMAIC, that's what it's all about. Driving real, lasting change.
I'm seeing how all these tools like value stream mapping, DMAIC, they give you the structure. It takes the guesswork out of it,
Right. Lean Six Sigma, it's about bringing order to the chaos. You're making decisions based on data, not just intuition.
And you don't have to be some big company to use it, right? Individuals, small teams, they can all benefit from this.
Absolutely. You can start small, one area at a time. As you get comfortable and start seeing results, you can always do more.
Well, this has been really insightful. We've really gone deep on Lean Six Sigma, what it is, why it matters, how to actually use it.
It's all about continuous improvement.
Right.
Always trying to find ways to be better.
Totally. Well, on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Lean Six Sigma. Until next time, keep those processes running smoothly.